We'll have Alice for nuts in May, nuts in May, nuts in May. We'll have Alice for nuts in May on a cold and frosty morning. It is the reign of Queen Victoria, 1892. Alice Gomme is 39 years old. It's a cold and frosty morning and she's walking out of her home, 1 Beverley Villas, just by the pond in Barnes. She feels a little sick, but she's not going to stop herself enjoying this precious moment. She's holding the hand of little Ralph. He's almost 3 years old. She'll take him, skipping, running in his eagerness to feed the ducks. It's cold, but he's wrapped up in the scarf and gloves she knitted for his older brother many years ago. As he hurls the crusts in the direction of the ducks, it reminds her of the notes she was making last night, a game from Halliwell, stones thrown on the surface of the water. She murmurs, "A duck, a drake, and a 5-penny cake." Anyone passing by will think she's talking to the baby. "Time to go back, Arnold." Ralph. Arnold is 5 now. He's at school, and so are the others. There's Lawrence, named for her dear husband. He's almost a man, 15. Austin is 11, such a good boy. Arthur is 9, always a joker. Edward is 7, so big now, so serious. Arnold is at school, and even the baby Ralph. He'll start school too before you know it. They grow up so fast. Luckily, she has another on the way. She pats her body, which has done so much good work already, laced firmly together under her usual stays. Her mind wanders to the huge pile of socks and stockings waiting to be darned. Maybe Amy can spare some time to help. She's a lovely girl. The undarned stockings will always be with us, she thinks, but the important work, her song collecting, must be done now. There are several letters waiting for a response at home. A Mrs. Carr's with a game from Southampton, and a Mrs. Byrne has sent her a song from Kent. But first she must, absolutely must, buy 2 yards of brushed cotton. Lawrence needs another pair of pyjamas. He's the oldest. He can't make do with that dreadful old nightshirt for another week. It's going to be a trip to Kingston. Of course, she can't take the perambulator on the railway, and poor little Ralph, he can't walk all that way. His fat legs will be tired in an hour. And so she goes home, checks over the meal plans with lovely, reliable Florence, and leaves Ralph and the socks in the care of Amy. She's a godsend. She'll wipe his nose, feed him bread and butter. Maybe she'll even sing to him. It's such a shame that she doesn't know any of the old songs. She hurries to Barnes Station, almost getting run over by a bicycle which zips around the brewer's dray. She feels so sick. Probably the smoke. Barnes is a clean, leafy place to live, but as you get near the station, everything becomes coated with soot. The leaves on the hedges are literally black. The train will take her to Richmond and she'll have to change there. It's very crowded. She feels quite faint as she sits in the compartment, so she opens the window. Smoke rushes in, leaving smutty marks all over her shawl. She distracts herself by taking out her field notebook and flips through the pages of penciled notes. This notebook is one of her most important tools. So many interesting things that you can overhear or see, turns of phrase, things engraved on walls or plaques, relics, pointing to an older time, ancient times. The train rocks and bumps and whistled. Only a few minutes later it pulls into Richmond. Oh, thank goodness. She has quite a pain in her stomach. She's used to morning sickness, but this feels worse than usual. She really can't face going all the way to Kingston. And then she remembers the new department store in Richmond. She doesn't know whether it's good value or whether it's good quality, but at that moment, it will be good enough. She wobbles out of the carriage. A kind lady slams the door behind her, but even so, she nearly drops her basket. A piece of barley sugar will settle me, she thinks. She struggles up the stairs. Luckily, there's a booth which sells tobacco and boiled sweets right by the entrance to the station. The man weighs her out half a penny's worth, and she stands there for a moment, sucking her barley sugar, staring at nothing, gathering her strength. And then she sees him. The newspaper boy, crouching on the floor just inside the station. She hates to see children working, really, especially such little ones. He must be 12, of course, but he looks more like Arthur's age. His hands are all black from the newsprint. His satchel has only one copy of the morning edition left, and it's crumpled. He's lost interest in it completely. The fine little chap. He's busy with some little square stones on the floor. She watches blankly for a moment and then with growing excitement. He's playing a game she knows, an important game called Five Stones. She has 2 versions of this game already recorded, but this is different. Well, for a start, he's playing alone, and secondly, he's throwing the stones in a completely unique way. Forgetting her sickness, she approaches him. "Excuse me, young man." He stops, looking guilty, and stands up and says he wasn't doing anything. She struggles to crouch down to his level, ignoring the stares of the other passengers. "You're not in trouble. My name is Mrs. Gomme. I was very interested in that game you were playing, with the stones." Sorry, Mum." He shoves the stones into his satchel and stands up. He offers to sell her the paper. She doesn't want it, but buys it anyway, so that he doesn't get into trouble. Gently, she persuades him to tell her about the game, bribing him with a piece of barley sugar. She tells him that his game will be in an important new book she's publishing. "A book of games, Mum?" He thinks it's a joke, but he's happy to show her how good he is at balancing tiles on the back of his hand, throwing and catching. "I can beat all the lads at dabs," he boasts, "'cause I practice the most, see?" She's so pleased that she ends up giving him the whole bag of barley sugar. She's so excited that she even forgets to feel sick. She almost forgets to brush cotton, but not quite. She buys it and comes home. It's a very busy day with correspondence and many, many family duties, but she always writes up her notes properly. Later that evening, over dinner, she tells Mr. Gomme, Lawrence, her husband, about the game. He is almost as excited as she is, and he thinks that he read about a similar game played by grown women in Folklore Journal, and he'll try to find it for her that evening. By the time she comes to publish her book, she has identified 10 versions of Five Stones and distinguished it from a similar game called Hucklestones. She finished sewing Lawrence's pyjamas on the following week. Alice Gomme was a folklorist and a founder member of the Folklore Society in 1878. This story is a reimagining of her life based on her writings and biography. She was a folklorist and collected folk customs and folk recipes. She is still celebrated for her book, The Traditional Games of England, Scotland and Ireland, a collection of over 800 children's games.